Got it.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Like to call this meeting to order, March 28th at 9 a.m. Might be surprised that I'm sitting here. I'm filling in this for the mayor as she is on holidays, but she's kindly zoomed in, so she is online and will be part of the conversation. So can I get someone to approve the agenda? Is there any late item?
No, there isn't.
Can I get someone to approve the agenda? Colin, Bennett, thank you. Adoption of the minutes of March 14th. Bennett. Could you spell your Puerto Rico? Thank you very much. Sorry about that. We'll go right into staff reports. Or was there any business arising from the minutes? None? Okay, staff reports. We'll talk about medical professional recruitment. Mr. Racy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, this is one of the items that is one of council's strategic priorities. So administration is bringing forward a report to have a dialogue on where the committee / council wants to go. Medical profession has been an issue within the community for years and as well as the province and across the nation. So a lot of jurisdictions are looking at ways that they can attract medical professionals to their regions. But I think it is also extremely important to indicate that this isn't the municipal responsibility. And but I do realize that members of the council and others get lobbied continually from residents to do something about the lack of medical professionals in the community. So it's really puts council in a very difficult position. And you know, a lot of municipalities across Canada are debate the same topic as far as how far they go into that provincial realm of responsibility, and it makes it really difficult. And you know, the spectrum of what kind of support councils do give goes right from pretty much zero, keeping it in the provincial bailiwick, to even purchasing residents for some of their doctors. So it's a I think it's a difficult thing for puts council in a very difficult position, but is something that impacts our residents and their visitors on a daily basis. So what administration wanted to go through is a series of questions and have dialogue on some various points so that administration can get some clear directions to how far council would like to go. So we're hoping that we'd just go through some of the questions within the report. Is more of an open dialogue, and depending on what comes out of that, we take that information and go to council for ultimate approval. So that meets.
You continue.
Okay. So I think the first question we want to start off is just roughly, where does council, does council really want to assist with the recruitment and retention of medical professionals? And I think there's a lot of things that need to be considered in making these discussions. It's not a simple answer, I believe. There's a lot of complexity to it, and indicated a couple of these things before. It's not been municipal mandate. Currently, there's no resources financially or even administration are budgeted for it. If there's an effort that council gets to do, that's something that is budgeted for. Obviously, the community requires additional medical professionals, and an underserved health professional community can impact the attraction of the community and resulting in a potential impact to our tourism industry, specifically snowbirds, as well as attracting and retaining the general workforce required of local businesses. There are just some general things to keep in the back of my mind. There's several other things, but those are just some key points that I think are worthy of I mentioned. So it's a like to open up the floor just to see generally, does the council think that there's something that they want to do with regards to attracting medical professionals?
Councilor Brennan.
Well, I have 4 pages of notes here because I've been doing this for about 40 years and going to different meetings. And basically, I guess the big thing is we have a couple different concerns. One is urgent care or clinic care, and one is doctors, right? And the doctors got to work together if you have a clinic. Now, if a clinic you want to the doctor using pills and sends you home, or sends you to the hospital and more tests. Go to urgent care, let's say you're having a medical problem and it's a Saturday or Friday or Saturday, and you're going like in the or Penticton, you walk in the hospital, they have a psychiatrist right there, they have a practical nurse, and somebody can deal with you right away. They don't say can go on Monday and go see a specialist, right? So if we're talking about, Sue's gonna correct me, because she's been on more meetings than I have, years just and something, but I think we need this, we really need to push that and get a clinic. We really need a clinic here. Because the doctors can recruit doctors, but when we go out and say, let's spend some money and recruit doctors, this is my opinion. And we're doing that, meanwhile, the government says, we're gonna put all these millions of dollars. And the next day they announce they're gonna use that money to build another great big hospital beside another hospital in the lower mainland. We recruit 75 more people for that place, we're competing against those 75 people. They're competing against those dollars. So I could say much more, but that's how I just kind of feel what's on a fair field. I've been trying to talk to the doctors here, and you get to hear, and there's so many different levels. The doctors have their own division, nurses, interior health. There's so many different people, and you go there, they say, well, that's that's them. So I don't even know who to go to the right people. And I think there's a study, Rod, and you're probably gonna talk about it, that was down here that I've seen from back in 2019, which tells us a lot of the stuff we're gonna talk about today. But I'm gonna leave that because I've seen it, so it's not fair for me to. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think. When was the last time we met with our local doctors and GPs? You know, we had a sit down meeting just to see. Like if we have the capacity, like the infrastructure, like rooms, things like that, like. You know, I would love to sit down with our local resources and see how we can assist, because. I mean, I think there is an appetite that we should assist in some manner. I don't know what parameters we should do that by. And we also run the risk that, again, I want to step on the toes of interior health or other health authorities. But I think we should definitely do something. I don't know what that looks like. Is it helping with interior and trying to recruit that way, or is it other avenues? And I think, when was the last time we?
Well, basically, we've had is, I was on a committee that the mayor, was invited to the committee. So it wasn't actually the council, well, it was an informal, yes, meetings, meetings, other than that. I've just did it myself, I called the doctors and I talked to the mayors and different doctors, the same as Mayor Sue, which was stupid, but I think we've talked to them individually, but we haven't had somebody from, we had interior health come, and they said everything's fine, and it's nice.
Yeah.
So nobody really put anybody in the corner or really had, because there's two doctor groups, right, and they're competing, but they're not competing. They both want the same thing, but if they both have their own clinics, how do you make it one clinic if it's gonna be an urgent care, because they need to work together? Or do you have a separate building where they take turns of going to it, so that's the problem is.
I could just maybe add something, Mr. McCord might correct me, but 5 or 6 years ago, we did have a meeting with the doctors locally. And I guess it really comes down, we definitely need some type of input or doctors, but it comes down to housing, the same as finding our staff. Is one of the components, but that would be my first question. Has there been a reach out to the local doctors for any input on any of these things you got on here?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
We were really hoping that, you recall 4 to 6 weeks ago, we had a lot of medical like organizations present to council. But nothing was indicated from them as far as what their request was of council. But again, the doctors were not here. It's different organizations.
Maybe we can jump.
Can I speak when you've got a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So you're right. This is a very confusing issue and it's very complicated. The CAO and I were at a meeting with Divisions of Family Practice last week. It was in camera. And they represent all the doctors in the area. So one of the things that was brought up was how do we deal with primary care centers and primary care network? Because when the study was done, we talked to doctors, and it was done about 5 years ago. I think that's the one that Councillor Bennett's referring to. We had Interior Health down here and they said, hang on, don't do anything more. We're getting primary care centers coming in. That was the new thing. And we're still sort of working on that and waiting for how that can help. Definitely last week, at Divisions, they were talking a lot about the Penticton Regional Hospital and what was offered there. And so we said, what about the rural areas? Karameas, Princeton, Oliver, and Osoyoos. How is that going to work? And they have agreed that there certainly needs to be a primary care steering committee with representatives from the hospital district. And so we're kind of waiting for that to happen and talk together. But you're quite right. It's very, very complicated. And there are too many agencies that weigh in on this. There's, Interior Health, there's the Ministry of Health, there's Doctors of BC, there's Divisions of Family Practice, and they all want to have a say in it. Can I just tell you that the last time I was talking to Interior Health, they said, wouldn't it be nice if any of you have videos or anything of your area, please send them to us and we will use that as advertising. I contacted DO right away and they sent the latest video, which is a dandy and might show people who were interested that this was a great place to come and work and play and thrive. So that was done. I don't even know what more to say because some of the stuff you can't say and some you can say, but I'm certainly in favor of doing something to welcome doctors to the area, such as a welcome package, such as, dinner and round of golf or whatever, or helping them in any way that we can. We do have a couple new international medical graduates that are due to come to Oliver, Osoyoos, not quite sure where yet this summer. So people are working on that, but there's too many agencies that are all trying to take a piece of the action. So what we can do down here in Osoyoos also affects what happens in Oliver because we share SOGH, the hospital. So it's one of the things that we sort of have to work with together. Anyway, I'm absolutely open to doing whatever we can. Thanks.
To the chair. Mary Sue, the committee we sat on for 4 years did exactly what you're talking about. The new committee is going to try and do.
Yeah, I agree. It's been put on hold for a while. I said, why haven't we got this going yet? That's what I asked the other day. And they said, well, yes, we're going to refresh the primary care network is what they said. And that they thought the best thing would be to have a couple of people on that. And we all pay into the hospital district. And as you know, that's sort of dealt with at the regional district board. And they thought that the chair and vice chair of that would be good representatives to be on this new updated primary care steering committee. The MLAs were also at that meeting, so they heard about it.
I guess part of my concern with the committee is where are we going with it? What's going to happen with it? Like I guess everybody should understand that in Oliver Hospital we have level 2 because like, I think it's like 70% of the people that go here from a city that go there are like number 4 or 5 injuries, so they're like Band-Aid things, you don't have to go to the hospital. But it shows that's 100 visits a month or whatever it is that go to the hospital there. And if we take that away and we get primary care here, we have to be careful that all of a sudden the government goes, oh, the hospital isn't gonna use it up, now we use the hospital. And that's what our present head of health, Mr. Dick, sees that. They're already talked about shutting down some hospitals, so just in our minds, we have to keep that in mind too, just so you guys know that. It's, so we've got to play with Oliver, unfortunately, they lump us in with Oliver in regard to these discussions. They're saying a PCN for Oliver and so you share it. The doctors going back and forth, so still not a PCN, just here. You're gonna share with Oliver. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Trump?
Thank you. So the general themes I'm getting is there's no clear path to the solution. Because as Mayor Conrad said, it's so many different committees, so many different organizations, everybody wants to steer the ship, too many cooks in the kitchen. Right? So I think it's, instead of looking at it as a challenge or frustration, as an opportunity where we can, because we do have a more direct link to the local doctors, maybe we open that channel, we kind of forge our own little path there to see how we can assist. And I love the idea of a welcome package, and then maybe we kind of create that more personalized feel where we might not have anything in the budget currently to help financially, but we can help with a town orientation. You know, like I would gladly volunteer to welcome any new medical professionals or healthcare professionals to the students and kind of give them a tour and everything like that to create that personal connection. Because it's again, it's frustrating because even if we're looking at establishing a walking clinic or an urgent care facility here, I just don't know if we have the population numbers for it to be feasible. I'm looking at other organizations from the perspective of other organizations for and then there's also limitations of walking clinics. The greatest Band-Aid solution, but there's no follow-through, no follow-up. Like if they go in for blood work, that data just gets lost in the ether essentially. It goes to their own personal account, but there's no lead. And even with PCN and so private care networks, the key is to have a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper is a GP. If we don't have enough GPs, usually we don't have a gatekeeper. So it's to funnel patients through the gatekeeper to whichever service is required, and either be a psychiatric nurse, registered dietitian, practical nurse practitioner. But again, like that gatekeeper is kind of a linchpin of PCNs, to my understanding. And we have a shortage, a complete shortage. So it's I'm curious as to see what the updates for PCNs are. But maybe we go with a more soft approach where we can reach out to the doctors, see how we can assist, and if it's not through funding or financially, it's through kind of the qualitative aspects where we can build those relationships and buying into the community and buying into the channel. Ideas.
I just make a comment myself. Certain. I think it would be important to set up a meeting with the local doctors or Interior Health. I don't think we want to take away from that committee, but I understand Councilor Bennett's frustration. That committee's been going 4 or 5 years, and it's trying to get someone to come in to actually lead that committee instead of everybody kind of talks into it and then they all go home in their own silos. So I think it would be important to hear some input locally here, besides that committee moving forward. That would be my recommendation. Dr. Bennett.
To the chair. Mayor, so the Health Watch BC is the ones that recruit and bring the doctors in BC. And I went on the line yesterday and looked up Health Watch BC. And when you look that up, they show the different regions, they show 4 regions, Vancouver, Vancouver Island, Interior, and I forget, maybe the Caribou or something. But when you go to the interior, it includes the interior, when you look at the interior, all they talk about is Penticton. Recruiting doctors for Penticton, so hoping where you sent that tape, that's where that goes to. Cause maybe that goes with what Johnny's saying, maybe this Health Watch PC, they're the ones who bring the doctors, and the doctor comes and says, I wanna come work in BC, what's available? They have listings on their website, you can look it up. None of those websites are other than Penticton and places that they highlighted on the website. So I don't know, if all the doctors come, they go through that, that's what it looks like, it's just something else to maybe make a note of that to look at.
So maybe what we could do is have a dinner or, you know, snacks and coffee or wine or something and invite the local doctors and get their input. I mean, we have done that before, but things have radically changed since then. And if we could get them together and maybe have them suggest some possible ways for us to try and attract doctors. It was done. There was a committee, the Economic Development, and I'm trying to think of the name of the fellow who was also on that. But it was before we had, I think it was when we had hospital boards, which was much more local, and before we had the whole interior health. So I'm certainly in favor of saying to the health professionals in the area, including pharmacists and chiropractors and, you know, everybody, and let's get them together and say, look, you know, we're trying to go through this mire of complications. Can you suggest anything? And it could have changed because we have done it before. I have to tell you that the lady that sits beside me at the regional district table, who is the area F director, her name's Riley Gettins, and her job with divisions was attracting doctors. And so she was the one who told me that there were some more international medical graduates that were looking to come here. So, but as you know, and as you are, you know, Councillor Poderica and Councillor Chong have found out, things take forever. Nothing gets done quick. So, you know, we've tried different things. Over the years, we've sort of tried everything, and it's, you know, there's too many agencies all putting their nose in, and you know what, we get it. We know that that's what happens, but it makes it very complicated for those of us that are trying to do something on a local level. But I'm certainly in favor, even at looking at town properties, because I don't think, I mean, what about locums? Do you remember a few years ago, we had a place up at Spirit Ridge that I think it was partly owned by Mike Campbell and somebody else. And we had it sort of set aside for locums to come in, and they paid a much smaller rate to stay when they were working. And we even had a place in Oliver that Oliver and Osoyoos councils paid for. It was a bedroom, 2-bedroom basement suite, and it was available for locums and for doctors who were working at the ER and so on. And it just wasn't used very much. And so with Oliver and Osoyoos, we decided we couldn't continue with it. It wasn't, we were paying out the money and it wasn't being used. So, you know, some of these things have been tried, but things change daily. And let's figure out what will work now. I'm okay with that for sure.
Thank you very much. Do we need a motion for that? I think what Mayor McCormick mentioned is trying to bring the physicians, doctors, chiropractors, as many people as you can together sometime in the near future, sooner than later.
Administration can proceed with that. I mean, interesting dialogue. We can set that up. I think there's a couple of more detailed questions I think administration would like to know. And it's kind of number 2 on the list as far as what does council consider the highest or the priority as far as medical professionals. medical doctors, there's nurses, there's dentists, there's chiropractors, so just how far does council want to go, let's just say in that initial meeting? If it's-
My opinion, everybody in the community keeps talking doctors, there's 500 to 800 people in town that don't have a doctor, so to me, area would be doctors.
I think we're in kind of a situation with triage and where we should focus whatever resources we're going to allocate. To doctors and nurse practitioners, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
And then from there, I mean, we can look at this issue later, but. I think doctors, medical doctors and nurse practitioners.
I agree.
Just good,
No.
good, good to add in there because we usually don't use that out there. That's true. The qualified people. You know,
So maybe just one more question to the chair, we're talking about those that are living in our community, or do you want to expand the boundary to all of it, or just focus on the ones that are within our community?
I think we should just focus in our community.
I agree.
Thank you, Richard.
Or-
She's so, to Jared, I think we do also be mindful though that, you know, this last week we saw another closure at SMGH, the service level at Southern in general has deteriorated. From the service offering that once had, you know, it previously was a 24-hour facility. Now it's a triage evening, night coverage, you know, if it's low grade, it's often addicted. So while we have a role, or while we want to take on the role of helping facilitate physicians and nurse practitioners to service directly to students only, that we also, you know, are hopefully hopeful that they're helping assisting relieve the problems that we're seeing at the Albert Hospital as well. But another comment here too, and well, very good comment too, the director area, Brad Gans, who had a conversation with back in January. I believe she's left divisions recently on more of a national recruitment role with the new employer, but it'd be interesting to have a conversation in that capacity to see, you know, if there's an opportunity or if there's something that's missing out there from the national level that maybe was missed more at the divisions level before.
Anything else?
Deputy Mayor. Deputy Worship. So I think, what I think administration is hearing is that there's interest of the committee to reach out to family physicians and nurse practitioners within our community. And, you know, maybe an evening type of a social gathering. There is, I guess, an interest from the committee that there is some type of support to, or some involvement in attracting, they'll say, so that members of the community can actually have access to physicians. Because I've also heard that maybe we've got to work closer with Oliver because of the hospital, and there's limited resources, and that's, we just need some medical support. We don't want to drain one. Maybe we eventually have the hospital closed. So there's a lot of, I think, some strategy there that I think council will want to work with. And I think, so in the end, I think it's waiting to have that meeting, seeing what those that are actually practitioners, what they think council needs to do. So maybe not proceeding with the rest of the questions is okay at this point.
Yep.
And being touch point with those that are in the chair. So that's
So do you have a motion or you just move forward with it?
no, we can set up. If I would. I would prefer.
I
that we
prefer
have
motion
somebody-
myself and
Yeah.
document.
So this committee can't make a decision, so that the council direct.
Will we make a recommendation?
Yeah, to go to council. The committee recommends, like, council direct administration. It has to be something like that, the committee recommends that council direct administration to establish a meeting with, kind of for physicians and nurse practitioners, so in Lockwood Council to, get that moving. Maybe, Madam Clerk, can we just put that on this afternoon's agenda then, to just get it?
Yes, the mayor.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that on this afternoon so we can get that ball rolling. Sound good?
Thank you.
Let me just get the motion.
Yeah.
Read.
It's
or
not ready yet.
drafted.
Yeah, Councilor Bennett. That's too good. Amazing. Well, I have a document from 2019 study on the city's for a clinic and potential that the mayor sued by me and I went through it. And at that time, it was ever released in the public. I have that copy, and I think it would be nice to all do is to make a copy of this mayor sued, okay? You can make copies to the other counselors, and that talks about the building, state budget law, and on properties available. It's a few years out, but it's a really good book for future and the next step we have. And that gives them the background of the law. Well, maybe we can put a clinic in. People, everybody runs those types of property. This thing's done on it. It's a major, it's a really, really good study. I just didn't give it to you today because until I got okay, because this when I was on the committee, PCM. So, stop, right? But that's okay, Mayor Sue. We can, so okay to pass it on.
So you. Think the mayor can hear it, so maybe through the chair, we'll check in that document to determine whether it's confidential or not. If it is confidential, we can still provide it to council in a closed section, so we'll undertake that behind the scenes so that we can get it to you either through public means or in camera.
Yeah, because I think down the road, in the future, we're gonna go the next step. You know, it's like before everybody starts doing all that extra work, it's. Really, it helps a lot about this, because how many people are. Needing care, how many should be in the hospital, how many should be in the clinic.
That kind of echoes my frustrations where there's these like shadow documents kind of floating around in the ether with different organizations and all this information. And it's hard to make a informed decision when you're not informed. And it's no comment in your shape form. It's just generally frustrating.
Thank you.
Paul,
very
we're
much.
the same.
Want to read the motion back?
Sorry, we didn't get a mover and a secondary.
Oh, sorry.
Or Sean?
That the committee recommends that council direct administration to coordinate a meeting with local physicians and nurse practitioners to discuss how the town can assist with the recruitment of health professionals.
Good. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Next item, infrastructure strategy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The council's come a long way over the last few months in attempting to establish priorities and a longer term vision. It's important for council to provide that vision so that administration has can meet the expectations, and it's important to know those longer term pieces that council wants so that we're not wasting taxpayer dollars. Now, this use some, a simple example, like we know we're not going to keep building X beyond 3, 5, 7 years. If the roof is leaking, we'll go in and do a minor patch versus going out and completing a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 new roof. So that all in the name of efficiencies and utilizing taxpayer dollars the most efficiently. So we captured a lot of information that council at a workshop of council, and I attempted to put it into a one-page document that provides some clarity to administration of what your future vision is. I think it's really important to know for the public and that this is a difficult exercise because council doesn't have all the information. You don't know the status of our asset management plan and a bunch of other pieces, but. I think this document enables at least some goalposts, maybe they're a little bit faded. And they can get moved, but making some of these decisions. Allows administration to prepare additional information so that. You know, some of these pieces start coming together, so. I know it's a really tough exercise to go through, you know, what some of this visioning is, and, you know, different things can change, interest rates will go 10%, will go 1%. We can have a population boom, all kinds of things, but. At some point, we need some direction, so we're not, again, wasting taxpayers' dollars or spending a lot of administrative time on things that council has absolutely no wish for us to entertain. So in front of council is a one pager that captures, I guess, just some foundational points. Again, I want to stress that a lot of things on this page will take years to even satisfy. These are the types of things that council wants to see. This is a long road. This isn't going to impact our residents or visitors in, you know, 1, 2, 3 years. It's a longer term outlook from a municipal infrastructure perspective. So, you know, again, it can always change, just like your strategic objectives, but again, it provides some general direction to administration in the interim. So I would just leave this open for council to take a look at that one pager and identify, you know, things that you're not comfortable with, or things that you'd like to remove or actually add. I think some of the interesting points within this document are whether or not the committee and council want to establish priority areas. So for example, do we want to keep our areas that are accessible and used extensively by our visitors at a higher stage, higher caliber condition than other neighborhoods? You know, if we're a tourism municipality and we consider that are one of the highest priorities, maybe we should maintain those areas to a higher standard. So for example, you look at restaurant chains, for example, and like McDonald's and A&W, that type of thing. They typically don't allow their asset to go to the 0% range. You very seldom go into one of those organizations and one of the restaurants and see terrors in their seats and that type of thing. It's 10 years old, they didn't get another 10 years out of it, but they replace it at 10 years. So it's always at least an average to excellent condition. And so considering that as part of our future vision on a lot of our publicly used facilities, that makes a difference in how we put together our asset management. So this vision presents this and is looking for some dialogue from the committee for direction. Thank you.
Any comments, any suggestions, any thoughts? I just have a couple comments. On your strategy vision, the one pager, would you have put a date on it? I know it's kind of in the minutes, but if it had a date on, we could relate back to when it come forward without reading all the introduction. And then I have another question on the map below, maybe for Ms. McKay. We got purple, blue, green, gold lines. Are these all water lines or top priority, low priority?
Thank you, Acting Mayor, Honorable Worship, Councillor King.
Make it a little longer, will it?
To the best of my knowledge, this map was prepared to look at what is sort of the short term and longer term needs. I don't see it. I actually didn't prepare the map. So, I know I did have a look at it. I'm not sure. Do I not have the correct map, Mrs.
On
Thorne?
the back of mine, there's a legend.
Oh,
Still right.
well. Can I just do one moment, please?
So the green line represents
Oh.
tier 1 road sidewalks.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then there's tier 1 parks and then tier 2 road sidewalks.
Okay, thank you, So, as per my colleague's, statement there. So I do recall now that what we were looking at here was what we call them tier 1 or tier 2. That was sort of the priority. For, keeping them tip-top shape.
Which does reflect the last count where Director Brownstein. We talked about the 4 potential projects for road upgrades, so we have. They're reflected through here. So W9 is tier 1. Yeah,
And then, of course, the purple area is sort of our priority for parks.
Can I just say, I like when I read the recreation one, the square in there, maintain current services, I thought that was quite helpful. Partly in lieu of the meeting that is happening tomorrow night with the town of Oliver, because it kind of gives our point of view on what we are looking at, such as current services, the aquatic center, multi-use facilities, how we can have shared facilities. And I thought that was those were helpful statements in there when you're talking to Oliver, which I won't be able to join because there isn't a Zoom option on that one.
someone walking around with an iPad on their face.
I guess I brought up this map and now I see on the right. But I believe in a couple of weeks or sometime in the next month, we're gonna be reviewing all our sidewalks and roads. We got 7 maps to look at. So does it kind of contradict what we're looking at here, or we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit for as infrastructure goes?
Deputy Mayor, you're correct. And so it's one of the things that the administration is somewhat struggling with, right? We have all these plans coming forward. But I think even approving something like this, and we can always amend once we see the master transportation plan. So I think it's okay, just so that it starts to set some of these, I call them blurry goalposts, and as you get more information, and as we're able to provide you with more data, we can adjust this. So one of the things the administration was thinking of is similar to what we're going to do in your strategic priorities is quarterly. Take a look at them. Are these still your priorities? Will they change, et cetera, et cetera. We could also take this document and go, based on this information, we think we want to tweak this piece. So I think it has to be a living and breathing document, depending on what information becomes available. So it's, I don't think I get too hung up on, making a decision. And if you change your mind because you have better information, that's fine. But at some point, I think getting some of those goalposts in play help us. So,
Okay, thank you. Now I guess I got one more question. Under your infrastructure, the very first dot, maintain or replace based on its functional life. Who makes the decision on how long it's good for or bad?
so typically what happens is when we're looking at an asset,
Yeah, not when you're asset.
we need our asset plan, and also on an annual basis, you're taking a look at the structure and you're looking at when are a lot of the bigger pieces scheduled to retire. So for example, you're looking at let's just say I shouldn't use this example, I know it's really sensitive, but there's a lot of expensive infrastructure as far as the chiller, a lot of expensive equipment, and if we see there is some desire to do some type of a larger facility, maybe we start timing as far as when all these big pieces expected to be end of life, and then we start looking at some cost benefit analysis of actually putting in that chiller, or no, we start looking at the transition to a different structure. So it's really as part of the asset management plan, seeing when a lot of these bigger pieces are failing, that's probably the time to look at planning to build something new. But there's a lot of other things like functional obsolescence and like just a functional piece of it, but so there's multiple pieces that one would look at. Does that help?
Yeah, to some degree, like, certain things we get ahead of ourselves without having other information. And that's why I find some of this stuff kind of difficult to move on when this document's ahead of ourselves.
It really is. You don't have all the information, but I'll say having some general direction, knowing that, if you want to do a tier one or combined buildings, it enables administration to start looking at the asset management plan and saying, you know what, if we're going here, let's say tier one of the public stuff, we start developing the plan with sidewalks or pardon me, maybe trails instead of 15 or 20 or like, well, no, we're gonna start doing 10. So we start putting numbers together, and then council will look at it, once we have that done, oh no, we can't do that, we've gotta push this off, we gotta go to we can't afford it, because we want bike paths instead. But, yeah, I completely can appreciate the difficulty that council is in. Attempting to make some decisions, we don't have all the information, but I can't emphasize enough. As more information becomes available, and things will change, we can amend this. And so including it quarterly. With your strategic objectives, we can tweak.
So will this document be reviewed quarterly at Blue Story?
We can do that. Yes,
That's your ban.
That was one of my suggestions is adding follow-up, manual follow, again, quarterly. That way we can amend it as things change. And I think this is a very important document. It's essentially goal setting with everything in mind. So if we're able to create a macro vision, then the micro can just fall in line. They're moving in one strong direction as opposed to being pulled in multiple different directions. So I don't see this as like the Constitution, the end all be all. Right, it's something that gives us so that we're all on the same page. All aspects of the town and then amend quarterly, or as need be, and as need be. So the only other comment I have is with the last point, town facilities, the future town hall can be located off of Main Street. Do we need that point there? Like, I feel like we're still far from that conversation with rebuilding a town hall at this point with all the capital projects we have ahead of us. I don't know if this is even. Is it worthy of consideration at this point, or maybe we add it in a couple years, or? I don't know.
to your word, I know town hall is a very sensitive topic. It's sensitive here and in every jurisdiction, whenever they're looking at replacing the town hall, it's a very sensitive issue. The building is in poor condition. Those that through it, we have some floors that we had to prop up with some additional beams for this, the way the second floor would have started collapsing. I think it was gonna be at my office, so you can keep that as you will. But knowing that it's an option for this building to be on another street, I think is important, especially if we start looking at multi-use facilities. And so there's gonna be lots of discussions that are occurring. We've also got housing, and that is another issue that's gonna come forward to council a little bit. Well, maybe you look at a multi-use facility, maybe we're looking at building something on the east side. Maybe that's a location potentially for city hall. So looking at designing, we're going, is there enough parking for additional structure like town hall? So it's not saying it's for sure gonna occur, but I think it gives administration, I guess, keeps in the back of the mind that no, city town hall does not have to be on this square block. We can look at other places, potentially as opportunities arise. So I think administratively, I prefer to have it in, if that is an option. Council believes no, town hall should stay on Main Street, very visible to the public. That's good to know. But you're right, is it gonna happen really soon? Likely not, but it is in our 5-year plan. So there is a placeholder, I think in year 5, that money is allocated for this building. And without question, at some point, you have to do something with it. And it either needs a bigger jolt of funding to bring it to more of a today's standard, or a complete rebuild. And unfortunately, with cosmetic type stuff, or a refresh, that's typically just as much do that as build new building. And so you know, we can't keep going too far. I think town hall is within the 5 years. It's not 20 years old,
And I do agree with the point though, but
so.
it is definitely possible. That the town hall is located off of Main Street. So just want to clarify that.
I just follow up to Mr. Chung's comment. This is supposed to be short-term goals, so I could see this going off and we could put it on 6 months down the road or a year down the road, because these are technically supposed to be short-term goals on your heading,
Well,
short-term objective.
well, I think it's short, but it's long, and so. Again, I'll use the example if we know council is looking at amalgamating some of the recreation stuff. So we start doing an asset management plan, looking at gee whiz, this structure is rough shape. It needs $4 million worth of stuff. Maybe we'll look at some of the other items on our list as far as when they may need to retire, and we look at, if we're gonna replace that structure, let's think about adding this facility with that one. So it is. Some of the decisions will be short term, but. Administration will also be looking at, okay, this building is set to completely retire, now get something else. We're not gonna put a 50-year life on something that we think is only gonna be there for 5 years, so it's kind of a combination. We get the asset management plan, that is critical, I think, to our overall financial stability, and having an understanding as to what level of condition to keep things is longer term. So I don't want to argue the point. I think we definitely have some.
Not arguing.
Okay.
Dr. Bennett.
I think that right above that, when that kind of says that line. That actually says where you're talking about. Incorporating within town facilities, that includes town hall, right?
That's
So
correct.
you already got it kind of.
Could I ask, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. A CAO, Risling, and when we do an asset management plan, and I know it's required by the province, and we have a certain amount of time to get it done, is that just a report of what we have in town? You know, how many miles of or kilometers of piping and that type of thing? Or is there a sort of a standard that we are supposed to be held up to? In other words, will they say, you don't have enough of this, or you're short on that? I mean, I'm not sure who is, but is it a department of the BC government that is going to say, yes, your or asset management plan looks good, but you need to do more on this area or that area? Will they comment on it, or is it up to us to just figure out what to do?
Through the acting mayor, very good question, and I can tell you that there is no. Our understanding so far is that there is no defined requirements or templates. We are going to be working closely with the province to ensure that whatever we do, we're doing it to at least the standards going to qualify us for future grants. Asset management is a very complex deep hole. What I mean by that is, if you were to do it really right, like first rate, you would integrate your assets with a GIS platform. So you know everything from how old that tree is, how often it gets pruned, how old is that garbage can, the condition of it, and the expected life and what the expected cost is. And all this would be accessible on one platform through GIS. So and it goes right down to every single asset and in detail. Like again, park bench should be picked up. Maybe the foundation underneath the park bench should be picked up. When you get onto the utility side, it gets even more complex. You go maybe on a per block basis, and every water shutoff valve would be tracked. Every tree would be tracked. And so it just depends on how much money you have and how much resources and how much detail you put in and what type of platform. There are all kinds of software pieces out there that municipalities can use. Some just use an Excel spreadsheet. But as you become more sophisticated and rely on this information more, get more money, you start integrating all these pieces of information into one platform. So we have talked about it from an administrative perspective as far as looking at GIS and that type of thing, but we're still in the infancy of that whole discussion. We just know that as we start collecting some of the data, and that's going to be occurring this summer to complement what we have already. We just want to make sure that we collect it in a way that we can actually put into a piece of software that would be all encompassing of all our assets and or a GIS platform. So I know a long answer, but if we define exactly how deep we're going to go yet, no. And some pieces of infrastructure will probably go deeper than others. So we're going to learn from what other municipalities have done. Ensure that we're getting enough information that we make some good decisions, but also not going into such detail that this is going to take us 20 years to get a plan done. So probably do it once, then maybe next go as we continually update it on a yearly basis, maybe we add one more level of detail. So kind of a wishy-washy answer, but it's a big topic and it's a lot of resources need to go into it. We're starting close to that almost ground zero and but we know how urgent it is and getting some information within that plan sooner rather than later is important. So I can assure you that we're not going to go into the real minutiae of things.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So I'll just ask one more question. Are we happy enough with what we've been submitted? Can I get someone to make a motion to recommend this move forward? Councillor Chung, Councillor Bennett. So that the committee of the whole recommend to council that the attached infrastructure strategy with a move forward.
With her quarterly review.
Yeah, we'll add that. Thank you.
Want to just read that back to them?
That the committee recommend to council that the attached infrastructure strategy be approved with a quarterly review to council.
Okay with that? All in favor? Thank you. Now, does that have to move forward to the staff agenda? No? Good. I guess
It's a long ball.
Pardon?
It's a long ball.
Anyhow, I guess we'll get someone to terminate the meeting. Councillor Chung, thank you very much. Thanks, Sue, for showing up. We'll see you this afternoon.